Queen Eve thanks us for rescuing her and gives her sincere condolences for the loss of Lumera. She also reveals that Prinny also had the Ring of the Dawn Maiden in their possession, that they've kept secretly hidden in a ruin to the north. Once Queen Eve had made her children promise to stay alive, of which I make no guarantee myself, our war chest gets bolstered and we're intercepted by a blacksmith and a clothier, whom we provide the same deal we made the item and weapon shopkeepers. We then see Neluce fall from a dark bolt launched by Zephyr. Zephyr then respectfully greets the sassy little child from the Lethos Castle attack, and despite failing to get the rings from us, the child responds with a sneer, and commands Zephyr to lay low for the time being. Back at the Somniel, I refrain from buying any clothes, and the only weapon upgrades I do are engraving the Fogvanger with the Holy Emblem, and Fensalir with the Beginnings Emblem. We then do our regular push-ups and Sommy bonding activities. I then visit the Amiibo Gazebo and obtain a fashion and music ticket per Amiibo, up to the daily cap of 5, which is annoying since we're not given any gameplay advantages here. Another feature that got unlocked was the arena, where we can have characters fight each other, not to the death, to improve their relationship, and gain a minuscule amount of EXP. Or we can straight up buy bond levels with bond fragments. With our limited training uses, I have Clan fight twice and Alir once. Afterwards I comb through the numerous support conversations I currently have available. Chloe support outs her as personal space violator number 2, where she's staring closely at a sleeping Alir's face and suggests in a yandere-ish manner that he can get used to it if they put an extra bed in his room for her, and Alir rightfully shoots that idea down. Celine's C support is thankfully far more normal, where it's simply two royals enjoying tea together on a beautiful day. Alfred's C support is one I like quite a bit, where he gets to earnestly showcase that he's a good friend without the overbearing praise that most of the other Alir supports we've seen so far display. Vander and Clan's relationship starts off strained, with Clan wanting to do more work fitting his position as a Divine Dragon steward. Clan and Fram have their Divine Dragon fan club meeting, effectively Alir's PR department, who plan to spread the latest Divine Dragon trends and gossip. Alfred and Etienne struggle with their tea time conversation because they are training with weighted teacups. Yeah, you heard that right. Clan offers Etienne a jar of homemade pickles after one of Etienne's workouts, and I thought the support was going well until Clan mentions that he slept with a jar of pickles, akin to hens taking care of their eggs. Seriously Clan, that's too much information. Etienne confronts Boucheron and attempts to pry out the secret of his muscular build, not willing to accept the fact that some people can have naturally bulkier bodies. Boucheron, having enough of Etienne's interrogation, manages to gracefully depart from the interaction. And finally, Celine and Louis' support has Louis showcase his tea-making skills. I also reconfigure everyone's inventories, buying off the javelin and hand axe from the weapon shop and giving them to Louis and Boucheron. I also buy the torch and the illume staff and give those to Boucheron and Fram, in case the ruins we'll be going to is a Fog of War map. We then feed the Seraph robe to Alir, permanently increasing his HP by 5 to improve his survivability. On the world map, 2 nodes open and I opt to go for the first Paralogue instead of rushing to chapter 6. Paralogue 1 introduces us to the very British speaking townsfolk being healed by the resident Dr. Sean, and the recruitable character for this map, Jean. Not too long after, the corrupted attack and most of the villagers hold themselves at the top of the map. We arrive on the scene and begin our rescue from the southwestern corner. On preparations, a cursory glance at the map shows a few enemies with various anti-specific unit type weapons, like the Armor Slayer, held by a confusingly stationary cavalry, and there are 2 houses we can visit. The enemy levels are like the ones in chapter 5, and we've become a lot stronger since then, so I'm confident in clearing this map with ease. With only 6 slots available for other units, I swap out Etienne and Boucheron for Louis and Chloe. I then set everyone to these positions and start the map. The goal of this map is to
kill every last one of them.
Corrupted. Of course, this implies that the villagers' safety is optional, but I'm going to do my best to keep them safe. and honestly they're a lot better off than most other Fire Emblem villagers, especially having 2 healers that can also fight back if it came down to it. Starting turn 1, we have Louis throw a javelin at the only corrupted he can target. Fram visits the nearby house and gets a defense tonic that I immediately send to the convoy. To the right of the corrupted that Louis attacked is another unit wielding a poleaxe, which is super effective on cavalry. So I send Vander to the left of the house we just visited and have him throw his hand axe. Alfred follows up and gets a nice critical with Fensalir. We then utilise Cantor to put him out of range of the mage. Alir moves as far forward as he can. Clan positions themselves to the left of Louis. Then we place Chloe just a tile above Alir so the enemy can't utilise the defensive bonus of the woods, and she equips the slim lance for the avoid. Clan gets attacked by an enemy archer only to get heavily burned in return. Despite her decently high chance to evade, Chloe gets broken and then takes a subsequent double team from the unit that broke her, and a sword cavalry. Louis takes a pitiful amount of damage and strikes back harder. The poleaxe wielding corrupted approaches the villagers, and the leftmost mage approaches our cavalry. Turn 2, Vander maintains his position and throws his hand axe at the mage and misses. Louis takes out the archer next to him. I then retreat Chloe and have her attempt to finish off the other units next to Louis, and she misses both attacks. Fram heals her brother, then Alir Emblem engages to utilise the rapier on the nearby cavalry and deftly finish them off. Clan finishes off the corrupted Chloe missed, and after pondering a bit on what Alfred should do, I have him throw a javelin at the axe units next to Alir, because having Alfred attack the mage is a guaranteed death sentence due to Alfred's low resistance and the fact the mage uses a surge tome. On the enemy phase, Alir expertly takes out the axe unit with the jab, and the surge tome mage with an unnecessary crit, putting him at level 7. The poleaxe corrupted gets a hit on one of the villagers, and then the remaining enemies approach. Sean heals the villager that got attacked, and Jean uses chain guard on his dad that's in no danger whatsoever. Turn 3, Vander advances towards the villagers and Fram heals Chloe. Chloe breaks the nearby sword cavalry, then an emblem-engaged Alfred utilises his momentum to shoot a high-powered javelin that one-shots the mage, threatening the trio heading eastwards. Louis takes his turn on the nearest sword cavalry and then Clan finishes it off, leveling up to level 5. Alir finishes the turn by walking towards the villagers. Once the enemy phase begins, Clan is attacked by yet another archer. The poleaxe corrupted changes targets and misses. Then another axe corrupted smacks the rightmost villager, warning us that we'll need to reinforce the villagers soon. Sean bravely comes out of their encirclement to heal Alir, which I'm grateful for, but at the same time worried for his safety. And then Jean heals the recently wounded villager. We have Vander begin turn 4 by breaking the corrupted Wyvern Rider. Alir blasts the poleaxe corrupted with a lodestar rush, then Alfred slays the Wyvern Rider who drops 1000 gold. Clan joins the reinforcement effort by emblem engaging and using Warp Ragnarok to scorch the northernmost axe unit. Chloe stabs the nearby archer, is then healed by Fram whose heal staff breaks, and then Louis pushes further to the east. The villager on the east wall bravely defends their position once again, taking another axe to the face. The boss starts moving towards the villagers and the southernmost axe corrupted advances toward the last visitable house. Jean then repeats his previous turn action. On turn 5, Alir stands on an emblem energy tile to prepare for the boss. Clan then relieves the easternmost villager of their corrupted burden. Louis and Chloe double team on the last remaining axe corrupted and severely weaken it. Forgetting that the Rider's Bane exists, we have Alfred override with Fensalir, then stay next to the enemy cavalry. Vander then weakens the same unit further with his hand axe. The enemies begin with demolishing the house. Alfred gets singed and then finishes off the stationary cavalry. The boss continues their slow approach and then Clan is healed by Jean. For turn 6, Alfred charges at the archer boss. I then send Clan to finish them off, but I'll let my game footage talk here. Oh, what?
I'm sorry, Divine One.
What? No! Why?
I I almost had a chance to be useful, and now I can't
Are
be
you
by your
kidding
side
me?
anymore. Goodbye.
Bruh!
So I furiously go back to turn 5, and since I'm turning back time anyway, we might as well prevent the bottom right house from getting burned down too. This turn goes the same way as the previous timeline, though the biggest differences are that we make use of the Obstruct staff to delay the Axe Corrupted's arson attempt, and Alfred utilising the Rider's Bane with Override, which eliminates the cavalry, opening a path for Vander to hit the mage with his signature hand axe. The remaining enemy and ally moves are similar to the prior timeline, with the notable exception being the villager house not collapsing yet. Turn 6, Louis ends the corrupted arsonist's life, and then Chloe receives an energy drop from the house, an item that permanently boosts the strength of the character that uses it by 2, which would have been a huge loss if the previous timeline clan hadn't taken that unfortunate crit. Alir then Emblem engages and talks to Jean, recruiting him in the process. Alfred takes out the enemy mage, leveling up to level 7 and looting 1000 gold. I then position Vander in between the villager choke point and the boss, and then I put Clan away from the boss's range, not willing to risk getting crit again. And then Jean uses Chain Guard in between the villager and Vander. The boss targets Vander, where one of the shots gets blocked by Jean, and then Vander makes a successful retaliation despite the low hit rate. On the final turn, I deliberate for a while on how and who should be hitting the boss to get some last minute EXP, and so I sent Alfred first, where the RNG gods decided he should take all the glory.
We decided to give you this to show our thanks.
In the aftermath of the battle, the doctors give their thanks on behalf of the village, and Jean becomes the newest member of the Divine Dragon army. He's this game's villager/trainee unit that starts off very weak, but has the potential to become very strong later, thanks to their aptitude ability, which increases the chance of stats being raised on level up. And to cap off this video, we also take all the animals this village has.